Meeting begins.
Earlier today with the explanation. That all makes sense.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yes, it did.
So there you got the president, the treasurer, and the secretary. As I mentioned, it probably makes sense for the president, who is in charge of running the meeting, to be a member of the board of directors. And then in terms of the other folks, they could be members of the board of directors, or they could be members of staff. Like I mentioned, it probably makes sense for the treasurer to be Tanya Thayer as the clerk treasurer, who would be managing the finances of the group anyway, the bank accounts. In terms of the secretary, that could also be Tanya if you wanted. Kelly Cook has also done meeting minutes and those sorts of things. It's really up to you. If you want to make me the secretary, I could do it as well. These officers have the ability to sign on behalf of the board of directors. So in cases past with the CDC, we've had to hunt down a CDC member to get stuff signed. Once you elect these officers, you can, in your approvals, give the ability of one of the officers to sign on your behalf. I know like the council, the redevelopment commission, a lot of times will allow the mayor to sign on your behalf. So you can do the same thing with one of these officers. So with that then, I'd take any nominations. We'll start off with president.
Can we go ahead and nominate Corey Coots as president of the council, of the Lebanon CDC?
Any other nominations? I think, Corey, it sounds like you're going to be a winner. Let's go ahead and take a vote of members. All in favor of that nomination, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Very good, Corey. You're the man.
All right.
And then in terms of, now the one thing that's not, I mentioned also, it probably would make sense to go ahead and elect one of the other members as the vice president in case for some reason Corey couldn't be available for the meeting or couldn't participate, somebody that run the meeting in his absence. So go ahead, of the two remaining, maybe Corey gets a chance to nominate somebody else since he was nominated for vice president.
On that move, we'll return the favor and nominate Matt Reynolds.
All right, do we have any other nominations? I don't think Missy's going to nominate herself, so. All right, well, now we've nominated Matt Reynolds for vice president. All those in favor of that nomination, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Very good. Matt Reynolds now vice president of the CDC. And now we'll move on to treasurer. I'll take nominations for treasurer.
I nominate Tanya Thayer for treasurer.
I'll second.
All right, any other nominations? All right, all those in favor of nominating Tanya Thayer as treasurer, please say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Very good. Tanya, you're now the treasurer of the CDC. And then finally, we'll do secretary for the CDC. Any nominations for that position?
Tanya, what are your thoughts there? Do you want to?
I'm fine with that.
Okay, so let's go ahead and nominate Tanya for secretary as well.
I'll second.
Any other nominations? All right, well, we've got a nomination for Tanya Thayer as secretary. All those in favor, simply say aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Very good. Tanya will be the secretary as well. All right, we've got all of the nominations. I guess at this point, Corey, as president, if you want to move on to our agenda item, you can introduce that, and then I'll kind of walk you through it.
Absolutely. So next up on the agenda is concerning two properties on South Meridian Street. So Ben, if you can give us some background there real quick.
Very good. All right, so just to kind of give you a little background here, the CDC was created in 2013. At that point, the purpose of the CDC was to receive funds from the state for the blight elimination program. That was a requirement to receive those funds that group be put in place. We did receive money, or we, requested funding from that program for 3 properties that were vacant and abandoned that we wanted to be able to purchase and demolish, and then at some point return that property back into the community and hopefully redevelop. So we were able to receive funding from that program to demolish 3 properties. Those were demolished probably about 4 years ago at this point. As part of the requirement of that state program, we have to retain ownership for a period of time, after which time they would release the mortgage they have on the property, and so it's a grant, but they hold a mortgage for a period of time. So that we were able to release the mortgages probably been 2 years ago now. So the CDC still is the owner of those properties. Our department has been maintaining them. We've been paying a contractor to cut the grass and keep it clean, all that good stuff. We reached the point now this year where it made the most sense to dispose of those properties for some good use for the community. One of the benefits of the CDC, or one of the reasons that the CDC is a good organization for a project like this, is the CDC is not held to the same standards in terms of public bidding that, say, the city or the redevelopment commission would be. So we wouldn't necessarily even have had to advertise these for sale. If we found an appropriate partner, we could have worked a deal out with them. We did choose to advertise these properties for sale. We didn't technically follow the public bid law per the letter, but we did put an ad in the paper one time back in mid-March, and then also sent the advertisements directly to a couple partners we thought might be interested. We did receive 3 offers. 2 of them were from Habitat, 1 for each of the properties for sale. One is 501 South Coombs Street, and the other one is 1410 South Meridian. We did receive 1 other offer on the Coombs Street property from another gentleman who offered us $1 for that property. He was concerned about the market at the time in mid-March and whether he really wanted to take on any inventory. So we did receive 2 offers. Habitat made an offer on 501 South Coombs of $18,000, and then on 1410 South Meridian they offered $12,000. And so those were the highest and best offers. We, obviously have a relationship with Habitat and have a good history with them and understand what they would like to do with the properties. So at this time, then, those are the offers that we've presented to you as being kind of the highest and best offers for the properties. And wanted to present those to you. Get any feedback, or if you have any questions about that, let me know. The goal here tonight will get your approval of these 2 offers, at which time then we'll start doing the formal process of getting purchase agreements and taking those to closing with Habitat if the board sees fit to make these available for sale to Habitat. So at this point, I guess I'll take any questions you might have about this and go from there.
Ben, do you have any market data on the lots, on what they're worth?
We do. Unfortunately, I don't have the copies with me. That was one thing I forgot to grab. We did actually pay for 2 appraisals on each of these properties, and I believe Habitat may have had copies of those. I don't remember off the top of the head what they were. I know the Coombs Street property was a little bit higher value, which is why they offered more for that property. It's large enough they could actually plat it as 2 separate lots and build 2 homes there and meet all of our standards. So that obviously has more value to them. But I believe they are probably just under what the appraised value for these properties were. And again, one thing is different, again, from the city and the redevelopment commission. If they were to offer it for bid, the minimum asking price would be the average of 2 appraisals. The CDC is not bound by any appraisals in terms of what you would choose to accept or offer the properties as. So we didn't even list a minimum bid price in the advertisements. This was just what Habitat chose to offer based on their funds available.
Ben, is it pertinent to the CDC? Are we trying to maintain any sort of profitability or replenish any wages or funds spent to obtain the properties, or is that through the grant? Are we well funded?
Yeah, so again, a little background there. Different from the RDC, which has the TIF districts that provide ongoing annual funding through the tax increment of those TIF districts. The CDC doesn't have any established funding sources. All of the funding for these blight elimination came from the state. It was all grant funding from the state, not existing funds that I'm aware of. That's my understanding. So there's not necessarily any requirement that you recoup the costs associated with buying and demoing those properties. It obviously makes sense to get what you can, because this is one way where you can create some additional funds for community projects within your bank account. So there is not a requirement to do so. You don't have to do so. It makes sense to get what you can, for sure. But this is more, the CDC is really meant to do some community development type projects, particularly ones that help low income and families in need. So it just so happened that Habitat was a good partner for this, and they'll be able to accomplish some of those goals and do a community-based project like that. And then, like I said, it provides a little bit of funding for the CDC to consider using it in other ways in the community for community-based projects.
Thank you.
Very cool. Any other questions for Ben? So then, just to confirm, I think we're going to do this in two separate motions, correct?
Yes, two separate motions we've got, would be best.
All right, so first let's entertain a motion on the 510 Combs Street.
Just to clarify, 501 Coombs.
501 Combs.
Yep. And the motion would be to accept the offer from Habitat.
I make a motion that we accept the offer from Habitat Humanity for 501 South Coombs Street in the amount of $18,000.
I'll second.
All right, hearing we have a motion and a second, I'll call for all in favor.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? And the motion carries. So that is one in the books. And then just to confirm, so 1410 is the other address, correct?
Correct, 1410 South Meridian.
All right, so 1410 South Meridian, I would now entertain a motion on that property.
A motion we accept Habitat for Humanity's offer of the property at 1410 South Meridian for $12,000.
Yep.
I'll second that motion.
So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Very cool. Well, thank you guys very much. I think that's a big win for the city. When you look at two properties down on the south side, unfortunately, I believe those were two properties affected by the tornadoes that came through a few years back. So it'll be great to have some new properties go in there. Habitat's a good partner for us to have. So excited about that piece. And with that, Ben, I don't know that we have anything else on the agenda, do we?
We don't. Just a couple of things. There is a third property that the CDC owns. It's down on South Meridian, almost directly across the street from 1410. It's a very narrow property. I think it's only, I want to say 40 feet wide. It's possible somebody could design a very narrow home to fit there, but I don't know, and I'll leave that up to the board to decide if they want to do that or want to consider something like that. The other option would be just to split the property in half and essentially give it to the property owners adjacent. I know the property owner to the north has asked about that in the past, and actually the property to the south is a Habitat home. So I know that's something that's come up. If you want me to investigate further options for selling that for somebody to build a home that could possibly meet the setbacks, I can do that. And I can send you more information about the property too, and then get your thoughts on that outside of the meeting if you like. But that's one other thing I just want you guys to think about is that other property. It's not ideal for placing a home. It likely is possible that you could build a home on it. It just would be a very narrow home. So any thoughts on that now? Great. If not, you can email me and I can take a look at that further either way.
Yeah, I'd personally like to see some more information on it, just kind of make sure we're all on the same page before giving away to those neighboring property owners.
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I think it's 1407, I think is the address.
1407 is the number that sticks in my head. I think that's correct.
I think that's right. I'll send you, I think we've got a survey of that. I'll send you some aerial photography so you kind of take a look at what's around it. But I think we had that appraised as well. So I'll get all that information to you here probably by the end of the week, so you can take a look at that. The only other thing I'd like to bring to your attention is the next project that comes to you is going to be much, much bigger than this. One of the, again, I said there's some unique benefits to the CDC that our other agencies don't have. So in terms of doing unique incentives for downtown projects, this group becomes a great partner along with the Redevelopment Commission and the city to be able to provide incentives to unique projects. So some of you may be familiar with the Brakeman building that's been proposed downtown on South Lebanon Street, where right now, I guess technically while it hasn't been recorded, the CDC does own the Estes property, the former Estes property. The RDC approved a resolution last year to transfer that property to the CDC. I don't believe we've actually executed that transfer, but it has been approved by the Redevelopment Commission. So the CDC owns the property, or will own, formally, the property on South Lebanon Street, the former Estes building, that'll set the table for a deal with Forza Commercial Real Estate to develop the Brakeman building. And there'll be a partnership between the Redevelopment Commission and the CDC to provide, in essence, a grant to that project to offset some of the site development costs and get their finances kind of in line for where they need to be for their investors. So I'll probably start forwarding you information about that shortly. There's a lot to dig through on that one. It'll be a multi-phase level of support for that project. There's a bank loan we'll be tearing the building down for, and we probably will do that in a few months before the project even moves forward. Then I think there's a third step where we'll be maybe responsible for installing the sidewalks or some other infrastructure components that we'll be responsible for. But I'll start sending some of that to you. I think the project agreement for that's probably like 25 pages long, so it'll be good reading for you if you need to go to sleep at night. But that'll be coming up probably in the next few months. They've had some challenges with the COVID-19 downturn. They did have speculative retail space on the entire first floor of that building. The banks have, in the last month, told them we can't finance speculative retail space. There's just no market and demand for speculative retail space right now. There won't be for a long time. So what they've had to do is kind of reconfigure that building. They are leaving a primary space for a restaurant on the first floor, but then they have reconfigured the building so more of the first floor became residential units as opposed to retail space to satisfy the banks. That's going back through the BZA and Plan Commission probably in the next, actually next month, it'll be July, it'll go to BZA and Plan Commission and get those things finalized. So that project agreement will you'll probably start seeing stuff with that in probably in the next month. So that'll be a big next step for the CDC to, after selling a couple of easy properties here, to take a look at that project agreement, get that approved, and get that really nice project for downtown. So I'll start sending you information about those things, the 1407 South Meridian, and then some about the Brakeman project. If you have any questions about anything related to those, please let me know, and then I'll keep you posted. This group won't have regular meeting times, so we'll just meet on an as-needed basis. So you may have a few meetings coming up related to the Brakeman building, and after that, who knows when your next meeting might be, but it just depends on what projects come up. So, again, if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, that's all I've got for tonight.
A couple of clerical things just to confirm. So from a purchase agreement standpoint, it's inherent in the CDC bylaws that any of the officers can sign there, right? So now that we've passed that, we're going to be in good shape from a signature standpoint.
I think so, because I don't think you technically have to, in your motion, suggest that you give approval for an officer to sign. I think it's in the bylaws they can. So if you just want Tanya to be able to sign those on your behalf, we could do that. Or if I know Missy's around the corner, I can probably figure out getting some signatures if I needed to anyway. So, Matt, you're not that far away.
I was going to say, Missy skirted by on this. I don't think she got into an office.
As a board of directors, she can sign, but certainly the officers, Tanya can certainly sign on your behalf too. So we'll keep it as streamlined as possible on the first agreement.
Okay. Perfect. And then lastly, I'm really used to that claims thing at the end of all the agendas. We don't have any claims that we need to take care of, correct?
Correct. No claims. I don't think you have any money, so nothing to pay.
Sounds good. All right. Anyone else have anything for the good of the group? Very cool. So I think we do have to entertain a motion to adjourn, though.
So moved.
I'll go ahead and second that one. So I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? No one is opposed. Well, thank you guys very much, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.